Welcome back to the Wild West Tennis Podcast, brought to you by QualityShot Tennis. This is a real treat to start the new year off with my old buddy. Well, he's not that old, but Rodrigo Camacho, sports journalist based in Guadalajara. We first met at the 250 event in Los Cabos, the Abierto de Mifil, was presented by Mifil. And that's when I realized this guy's a genius. We got to talk in Guadalajara. So, without further ado, sir, how are you?
What's up, Bradley? It's nice to be here with you again. Nice to talk to you again. It's been a while since that WTA 1000 here in Guadalajara. So, yeah, I'm very excited to be with you again, to talk with our friends again, and let's talk about tennis.
Well, I wore this cap. I don't know if you can
Oh, I
see it.
see. I see. I see. I see. I see.
That's in
Yeah, I
honor of
see.
you, my friend.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm
without
glad. I'm
further ado,
honored.
why don't we talk about the champion of that event, Jessica Pegula, and her win over Iga at the United Cup. Can we talk about this woman finally beating Iga? What did you think about that?
I know it was surprising. I have to say that Iga is currently my favorite player in the WTA circuit. I really like her. I like basically every single thing about her, like her work ethic, her shots, everything. And honestly, for me, it was a surprise. We shouldn't be surprised, I think, because I think Jessica Pegula is getting there. I mean, she's already there. Like she's one of the best players in the world. So it shouldn't be, or it should have been a surprise for us. Obviously, if you look at the head-to-head, then you saw that obviously Iga Swiatek was way ahead of her in her previous matches. But those were tricky matches also for Iga, even though she ended up winning every one of them. So I'm really glad for Jessica because she's I really like the progress that she's made over the years. We are used to see like really young talents like 18, 19, 20-year old girls, but then Jessica we start to see more of her from like a year or two back, right? So
Correct.
That's what I like about her, that she wasn't in a hurry. She has taken her opportunities, and she's getting even better every day. So that's good news for her. Good news for USA Tennis. So welcome Jessica Pegula to the best players in the world. Why not?
Absolutely. I concur in spades. Absolutely, my man. I see it the same way with Pagula. When she captured that event in Guadalajara, that really was important to me because, as you recall, she ended the year number 3.
Yeah.
And she's the player that, okay, we expect she'll get to the quarterfinals of every major. She'll always play to her seeding. And I heard she got married recently. That tends to help tennis players when they get married. Not that that's why she's now beating Iga for the first time, but I think she's got all the pieces together. And you know, would it be crazy to say that she's a favorite to win the Australian Open? Am I
Well, if
insane?
you, mm, well, first of all, we already know that the WTA is kind of crazy in terms of Grand Slams. You know, we have a lot of new champions every year. So in that sense, I wouldn't say you're crazy. But if you take a look, but if you take a look to the WTA rank, um, I wouldn't say that you're crazy either because I mean Jessica Pegula is already there. She's projected to at least make the semifinals and then face one of the top two players in the world right now. So if you're a candidate to make at least the semifinals, I already think that you're a favorite to the tournament. So obviously, I still think that Iga is ahead of her. I mean, you can lose a match, but still be the better player, and I think that's the case for Iga. But I wouldn't be surprised if I see Jessica Pegula on the second week, if I see her in the semifinals, if I see her in the final. I mean, do you remember I think it was like a year or two ago. We had this another player from the U.S. Jennifer Brady.
Yep, Jen Brady got to the finals
I
of the
mean,
Australian Open a
who
couple
was
years
who
ago.
was who was expecting Jennifer Brady back then to make the final? I wasn't, to be
Not
honest.
this guy.
Exactly. So if right now you tell me about Jessica Pegula, I will put Jessica Pegula ahead of Paula Badosa. I will put her ahead of Kanteveit. I will put her ahead of Sakari. I will put her ahead of a lot of players.
That's fair. How about Coco Gauff? You know, she came off winning, and this surprised me, Rodrigo. I was shocked when I read the report. This was only her third singles title. I'm like, with that ranking, with she's only won 3 singles titles. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's like a tricky, I will say, because then if you look at her age, well then
Right.
maybe she has a lot of titles for her age,
To be
right?
sure.
But yeah, but I think, I mean, I've talked to you about this before. I love Coco Gauff. I mean, I love what she represents, what she brings to the tennis. I really love her. It's a player that I really like to watch, and I was kind of surprised too, because I would I would have thought that maybe she already had, like, I don't know, more like 5 or maybe 10 titles.
Mm-hmm.
But like, to be honest and to be fair, that's a lot of titles. That's a lot of
Well,
titles already. So
that is being fair. That's being very fair. But just with the
so
ranking,
if you see her age, if you see what she's done, if you see the way that she's evolved, I would say it's a pretty fair number for her.
yeah, and not to mention the fact too, Rodrigo, is that she was limited before she was 18 in the number of events she could play, and I think the ranking is largely reflected by the results in the majors. Um,
Yeah.
so fair enough, and that wasn't the strongest field that she faced. I believe it was in Auckland. I think that was the tournament in New Zealand.
Auckland,
Um,
Auckland.
yeah, but anytime you win a tournament leading into a major, it's perfect. You don't have to, at that point, you've got the confidence that you need. You really don't need any more matches going into the major. And on that note, I'm going to shift. I'm going to change gears here and go over to the men uh, because I'm really impressed that Korda pushed Djokovic and had a championship point in the final, and I believe that was
Yeah.
Adelaide. Um, that's again, I know I'm jumping from the WTA result and actually the women's result because Pagula was in the United Cup. But just speaking of about players, Sebastian Korda to get to a final right before the Aussie Open, that's big time stuff, and almost a point away from winning that title.
And what a week! What a week for Corda!
Right.
What a week! Honestly, obviously, like the win against an all-time great as Novak Djokovic would have meant the cherry on top of that cake, right? But
Yeah.
if you look, I mean, if you look at the players that he had to face, I mean, he went all the way through Andy Murray, Roberto Bautista Agut, and then Yannick Sinner without losing a set. He
Right.
didn't even
People
lose a set.
concentrate. Right. And you know what I like about your point? The I was concentrating on what Novak did, beating Medvedev, Shapovalov before that in the quarters,
Yeah.
beating Medvedev in the semis. You're bringing up what Korda had to go through, and I'm sorry I interrupted that. Take us back to that point because you taught me something here. I didn't realize his draw was that tricky.
No, yeah, it was, because obviously um when I saw that the final it was gonna be like Djokovic against Korda. To be honest, when I saw the semifinal Djokovic against Medvedev, I said this is like the final, and whoever wins this is gonna win the tournament, obviously. But then I saw Korda, and I thought, okay, so if Medvedev was going in the same direction as Novak, who was the number 2 seed. So that was when I realized Felix Auger-Aliassime was the number 2 seed, and then he lost to Popyrin, I think, something like that. But then I went all the way to see, okay, so what did Corda do to be here? That's when I saw Andy Murray, Roberto Bautista Agut, Yannick Sinner without losing a single set. That's when I thought, oh my gosh, that this is a great week. This could be like a semifinal week en route to a Masters 1000. Like if you think about it like in terms of players and in terms of level, easily could have been like a week in a Masters 1000. So I think it's really good for Corda. We all know, or we like to imagine what he's capable of in terms of talent. He's such a talent. I really liked what Djokovic said about him before facing him in the final. That Novak said that Corda had a really, really beautiful tennis, clean shots, and then he said, "I'm gonna try to make that ugly" or something like that in the final. Obviously, he managed to do it, but I think it was a great result. The thing with the youngsters, I feel like when they have this kind of results, like being really close to defeat one of the all-time greats, and they don't manage to do it, maybe their confidence comes a little bit down, and it has to be the total opposite. Like if you are in a final against Novak Djokovic, you win the first set, you take the second to another tiebreak, and then you have a match point, man, you're gonna win 99% of those matches. The only thing is that in front you have Novak Djokovic, or maybe you have Nadal, or maybe you have another guy that is an all-time great. If it wasn't for them, of course, Corda would have won the tournament. So I hope that we see good things from him in this next.
Well, Rodolfo, I concur again, and I'm being repetitive here, but I'm on the same page with you because Corda is the kind of guy that can take a loss like that and it won't set him back. You recall last year, I think it was last year, it could have been the year before, that he had set points and match points on Rafa first round of Indian Wells. It was last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get scar tissue from that. So if he gets really close and has a match point against Djokovic, like as he did in the final last week, that doesn't hold him back. It doesn't hurt him. I agree with your assessment. He's on. I think he has more upside than any of the American players, even Taylor Fritz, who I'd like to kind of talk about Taylor. I know I'm kind of going back and forth here. Taylor is kind of the guy right now with that dominating performance and to capture the United Cup, beating the Italian guy, what's his name again? Berrettini. Beating two breakers. Yeah.
Matteo, yeah.
Right. So he's kind of in form there, but I don't know. I think Corda has more upside than any American player right now.
You totally stole my thought right there, because that's what I was gonna say. That in terms of ceiling, I think Corda has a higher ceiling than Taylor Fritz. I don't think we have seen the best from
Corda.
Taylor Fritz yet, and obviously we haven't seen the best from Corda yet.
Okay, I thought you were going to say we haven't seen the best from Corda. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
We haven't. No, we haven't. I will say that we haven't seen the best from Fritz, in terms that maybe he can be even better this year than what he was last year. But obviously Corda, I think he has a top 10 potential. To be honest, in what happens to me with Fritz is that he has the level, he has the tennis to face basically every single opponent in the world. Like he has to, he can play whoever. We have seen what he did against Djokovic in Australia a couple of years ago, when then Djokovic got injured in his abdominal, and then Taylor was doing this amazing comeback in 5 sets, but then he lost at the end. We saw Fritz against Nadal in Wimbledon last year, and
same thing. Yeah.
and then he defeated Nadal. I mean, he has the tennis, but then you see Fritz Open last year, he lost in the first round. I mean, he has a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, the first
Taylor
round
Fritz.
lost in the U.S. Open. You broke up a bit there. The loss to Tracy Austin's son, Brandon
Exactly.
Holt, that was a shocker. But
Exactly.
I don't give that much credence. I think that was one of those fluky things.
Probably, but I don't. I normally those things kind of happen to Taylor Fritz always. So that's what
Oh,
I think. Like what I wanted to say is that Taylor Fritz always has these ups and downs. Like in terms of rivals, he isn't consistent enough yet for me to, for example, to say, you know what, maybe Taylor Fritz can be one of the candidates for this major. I don't see him there yet, and that's what I think we can see in Corda maybe in a couple of years. Let's give him a couple of years, and maybe he will be maybe top 10, maybe top 5. We don't know. Like once these big guys are done, right? So let's. I think Corda is a really really cool talent.
the knock on him that I've heard is that, and obviously his father won the Australian Open.
Yeah.
We got to
Peter.
mention that, right?
Peter, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I've heard the only knock. Somebody said maybe the footwork isn't great, but boy,
Okay.
with the way they work with trainers and conditioners, maybe that's a weakness you can cover up. I mean, I'm curious. Are you better off having uh, a footwork issue or maybe a weak backhand? I don't know, but I don't want to go that direction with Corda or any of these guys. But I think that's fair with Taylor. I like your point. We need a little more data on both these guys.
Exactly.
That's what I'm hearing you say. As far as, gosh, the women, I am so encouraged though, because Madison Keys, we didn't talk about her. She was a big part of the success in the United Cup. And Kenin, who you mentioned, Coco beat her, I think you said in the semifinals.
Coco defeated Kenin in the second round. I mean,
Okay.
it was her second match
Okay.
of the tournament.
And then is Jen Brady expected back at the Australian Open this year? I haven't seen.
I haven't known anything about Jennifer Brady in the last year. I mean,
yeah. Okay. So she's out of the discussion, and that leaves us, as we talked about Madison Keys, Pegula, Sloane Stephens, who I thought had a pretty good result, played well in Guadalajara. I'm not sure where you are with Sloane Stephens.
I mean, now that you were talking about Pegula, Keys, Stephens, Goff, all I hear is talent. To be honest, like all I hear is talent. Yeah, to be honest, again, it's basically I'm not saying they are the same as Taylor Fritz, but I will say the same. It is kind of the same situation. It's always terms of being like constant. You have to be constant in tennis. That's the only issue that I see from them. I mean, Sloane Stephens was a Grand Slam champion. Like you don't get that. You don't get that. It doesn't get any luckier than that. Like it's not luck. And then Madison Keys was a finalist. So and they're still young. Like it's not that her time already. You know.
I thought that Sloane Stephens was one win away from actually, she went pretty far in Guadalajara. I think she got to the quarters. You'll probably remember better than me. But I thought if she had one more win, I wouldn't have been shocked if Sloane would have won Guadalajara.
Yeah, because also she won the event held in February.
Yeah.
She won that event. It was 250, but she won it. So.
But my point about Sloane is, I think if Sloane gets on a roll, that's all she needs. She's one of those players to me that has so much talent. And man, if she gets on a roll, I don't worry about her. I want her to get on that roll. And I just love this group of American women players. I mean, we didn't, they deployed Pegula and Keys to the United Cup. Coco wins in New Zealand. That speaks volumes for the U.S. women, and I think again they were as much a part as of winning the United Cup as Fritz, with that win over Berrettini in the final. So I think we're good, leading into the Australian Open on the U.S. front. Are there any? Well, gosh, I guess have we left anyone out of this group of American players?
Well, I would say TFO.
Ah, duh. And he was at the United Cup.
Yeah, he was at the United Cup, and obviously we all remember that semifinal against Alcaraz at the U.S. Open. He was really close. It was a five-setter. Um, but again, they have to be consistent in those stages. They have to be consistent in the semifinals, at least quarterfinals, at least semifinals. The thing with the women's side, I think they don't have really like any pressure over them, like because obviously, if you think about the biggest legend in women's tennis, obviously Serena is out of reach. So it's not something that is chasing them. Like
Yeah.
it's just mere inspiration. It's just motivation. It's not pressure for them to reach the levels of Serena. So they are on their own paths. And it was not the same for men, I would say, because when you go to the men's side, there were always an American in the top five. Like the last really good. I mean, I'm not saying Fritz, Tiafoe, Korda, and all of them are not good. They're really good, but the last elite, like absolute elite player that I remember from the U.S. is Andy Roddick, and after him, I haven't seen another player on that level, and I
I think
think
what you
that's the
mean,
that's the issue with them.
yeah, I think what you're saying is you haven't seen another player that you felt was capable of capturing a major.
Exactly, exactly, and I think that in that side and in that sense, that's pressure because then if you go all the way, and when I say all the way, I mean all the way back to the history of tennis. Like if you talk about Tilden and all that stuff, and then you make like the road all the way to Connors, all the way to McEnroe, all the way to like these really really big names the U.S. had in tennis, and then you start going to okay Agassi and then Sampras, and then you're talking about all-time legends, like all-time great players, and then you go like you have to make the jump from them to yeah maybe Andy Roddick and then to Fritz to Tiafoe to I don't really feel that they're gonna fill those shoes. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
think that's pressure
they
for
don't
them.
have the expectations that uh, the generation before them had to fill the
Exactly.
shoes of. I mean, yeah, you could say perhaps started with Roddick, and Roddick would have had to fill the shoes of Sampras, Agassi, Courier, Chang, and he acquitted himself
Career.
nicely, with his Hall of Fame status, so he got it done. But then there was sort of a gap, and those guys did great. We had the Bryan brothers, uh, who I think are the all-time greatest doubles team,
They
uh,
are. They are.
in the history of the sport.
They
Um,
are.
and then, as you recall, they captured the Davis Cup in 2007. Um, and so American tennis was in great shape up until that point. Roddick was still finding himself in finals of majors, finals of the U.S. Open in '06. Lost the heartbreaker to Roger when he passed Pete's
If
record
it wasn't,
in
if it
'09.
wasn't, if it wasn't for Roger, Roddick would have ended with three Wimbledons.
To be sure.
Imagine Roddick with three Wimbledons.
Well, two for sure. I think the last the one in '09 definitely. That one when he eclipsed Pete's record, or yeah, he broke Pete's record because he was there. And I think the second one was very close. I think it was '04. So the '04 and '09 definitely could have gone Roddick's way. I'm not sure about '05. We could talk about that another time. But I don't disagree with you. If not for Roger, he's got 4, maybe 5 majors. The screen went blank. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I went on. I rambled on about Roddick, so we can shift gears. But we're on the same page with the unfortunate timing with Andy and Roger.
Exactly.
If we, well, speaking of another guy that was part of that Davis Cup success, he wasn't on the team when the United States finally captured the Davis Cup again under Patrick McEnroe, led by Roddick. And again, my memory is it was '07. Marty Fish.
Yeah.
It was announced that I think he resigned, and it was a joint statement. He resigned as the head of the Davis Cup captain, and the USTA, everyone felt they were in accord. I guess I'll let you start. Any reaction you have to that announcement?
It was kind of surprising because we thought that he was really like excited to have this challenge for him. So to be honest, I don't even know what happened, or I don't even know what went through his head, or if he had any sort of trouble or any sort of situation. Like I just didn't really understand why that happened.
I think it was also, I mean, the what most people will point to, and this is why it's important to talk about it, because
Yeah.
I'd like to be fair minded. Obviously, he was under scrutiny, even in the Davis Cup, in the finals for not selecting Ram. That's common knowledge. I think, regardless of whether he didn't select a player or select
That's true. I
Ram or not,
remember now.
yeah, that was sort of the controversy. He didn't select Ram because
It's
he
true.
had
It's true.
partnered to win the year-end championship, ATP championship. I think a lot of people think that Ram was the number one doubles player in the world. I think he finished 3, but he and his partner won the ATP finals. My thinking is, regardless of Marty's decision of selecting him or not, I don't think that's cause for termination. In my opinion, that's a bit of a quick rush to judgment. We don't know why that decision wasn't made, and just to be fair, I think I would have liked him to have one more year at it. Okay, regardless of that decision, maybe that didn't have anything to do with it. Maybe Marty was going to resign regardless of the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a quick rush to judgment.
Yeah, if that was the situation, I would say that that it's unfortunate, because then maybe what would you name someone a captain, and then if you are not like, if you don't agree with his decisions, then why make them a captain in the first place? Like,
Yeah,
that's his job, right?
yeah.
To pick the players that he thinks are better for the team. So maybe he thought that Ram wasn't the better pick for the team, and that's I mean, you have to let them go through with that situation. And if at the end, if he didn't had good results, then maybe, yeah, you can get rid of him because of the results, but not because of the decision.
I concur, and I don't think I like your precise assessment. Not because of the decision. It's more result based. Yeah, okay. The result and the decision were not favorable. Well, the result was not favorable. My point is, and he started in 2019. Okay, he did his job. He got them there. They were in the new format in that final stage. at the end of 2022. And again, with pandemic, I'm not sure of all the in and outs, but
Hmm.
essentially, he had done a very good job guiding this team. I think he was. I'm almost positive the players were fond of him, and he has an incredibly high tennis IQ. He's got the experience. Um, I just feel that we won't know we what happened behind the scenes. I just want to make my case of, okay, maybe we give him another crack at it. It just seemed like pretty drastic that he's not their captain anymore. That unless
Yeah, it's
he
drastic.
totally, if it was totally up to him and he was like, I don't like to be in these positions. Fair enough.
Hmm.
I
No,
mean,
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you in that sense. I think it's drastic. If it was for the decision, I think it was drastic. Maybe we have to wait until he really speaks out about what happened. I would
yeah.
say.
And the thing is, they're in good hands. Look, okay, you didn't get it this year, but I mean, you or I could be the captain of that team, and they'll do fine. I mean, they
Yeah.
wouldn't under me, under you. Yeah, they would know what they're doing. But there's such a wealth of talent, and the team they announced, I think it's a quarterfinal against, and I think it's an Eastern European team. I should have done my homework. Um, and I don't think Taylor and Tiafoe are on that team, but they got so much depth with U.S. tennis. They'll be
Good.
fine. They'll be fine. That was the other thing that disappointed me. It's like, come on, it's all right. Which actually leads me to believe the last thing I'm going to say about this. I think it was Marty's decision. I think he decided, look, I've got other things I want to concentrate on. I'm sure the guys wanted to keep him. I can almost guarantee you to the man that every one of those guys on his
Okay.
team were bummed out that he chose to leave. So okay, we'll find out in the weeks to come who is the interim Davis Cup captain. One last thing I'd like to kick around with you is the news about Djokovic won't be allowed to play Indian Wells or Miami, as he won't be allowed to enter the U.S. due to his vaccination status. Your thoughts on that?
Well, he already spoke about the situation last year that he was in good terms with losing tournaments, with losing trophies, with
Mm-hmm.
not playing because of his beliefs. So I don't really have too much to add. I mean, that's the way he thinks. That's the way he wants to act. There are rules to enter a country, and obviously we would like to see Djokovic play in every possible tournament because of what he brings to the table every time he's on a court, right? But then, like, there's nothing you can do against those types of situations, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, there's nothing you can do. And um the fact of the matter is, as I was kicking that around before, this idea of a lot of players uh taking time off before, well, actually they usually take the time off before Indian Wells in Miami for that reason. They want to be sharp for those two 1000 events that are essentially back to back on both tours. Um, he he is just. I think what the nice thing about what we've seen with Nadal and Djokovic, they can they can take a break. It's not like in the olden days where it would hurt you to have time off. Um, Novak Djokovic, then he gets to prepare just for the clay court season.
Yeah.
And think about it. In my mind, there's only one guy, and we don't know what the status of Alcaraz will be, but um, obviously with this injury, we'll see the residual effects, long-term effects heading into the
Yeah.
clay court season. And I think for Novak, he's gonna be so motivated to win Roland Garros, and fair enough, he can just play clay court events up until the tournament. I don't see anyone apart from Rafa or Novak winning the French. how do you win 3 sets over Nadal or Djokovic on clay? Do you have an answer? Like,
my only answer, like, to be honest, my only answer is like a matter of time. I think uh, because right now there's no, I don't see any player to be as complete as they are, especially on clay. I mean, if you talk about Rafa, you're talking about the greatest ever on clay without a single doubt. And then when you talk about Djokovic, you talk about one of the most complete, if not the most complete players to ever step on a court. So what are you gonna do about it, right? The only player, and I know that you're gonna remember the only player that really faced against them in a good way, basically in every single court. Now he had to went through a whole year of injuries. He's way off. He's not the same that he was on his prime. And I'm talking about Dominic Thiem.
I
There's
knew
no
it.
other
I
player.
knew it.
There's no other player that faced against them in the way that he did. Obviously, taking away Roger and taking away Andy and taking away these other guys. But in this new generation, like talking about players born after 1990, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no other player to face him the way Dominic did. And since Dominic is not really there, I don't I don't see Medvedev doing it. Tsitsipas had his chance in that final. I don't see Zverev doing it. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if Alcaraz is going to be able to. We have to wait and see. But I don't know.
Yeah, Dominic was a double threat. I mean, I never forget the grass. He would have been one of those dudes that, yeah, you could argue with the way the grass courts are now. I don't think so. But he proved it at the U.S. Open with that, capturing that title. And the results, he was in an Australian Open final too, I believe, losing to Djokovic in 5 sets.
He will.
So, yeah, the guy, he can go toe-to-toe with both dudes. And the wrist thing, I guess it's like a lot of injuries. I don't know if it's as bad as the hip injury. Seems like when guys get the hip injury, like Murray,
Oh yeah, it's done.
that
Right?
one is a death sentence. The wrist is not far behind.
Yeah.
But it is a shame, and I concur. That guy, he I had more belief in him than any of the other
Yeah.
guys in that crop. But now, boy, it's such a deep time. I mean, they have, if he can become healthy somehow, as we now know, he's not old anymore, so he could come back. And the depth now, it's jumped up from the days of it just being Medvedev, Zverev, and Tsitsipas. Now it's Felix, Shapo, Fritz, Nori, Team if he gets healthy,
Sinner.
Corda. I mean, keep going. I mean, it is deep.
Yes, but I would say like in terms like among them. I mean, if you take out Rafa and if you take out Novak, um, among them it's gonna be a crazy tournament because it's way too close in terms of level and consistency. But when you add one of these aliens, like if you put Rafa or if you add Novak there,
Yeah.
they're way above the rest of them. Like that's the way I see it.
Well,
Even now.
I agree. Currently, I
Yeah.
see it the same way. And yeah, at the current moment, but I am very optimistic. I think I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. For me, 2023, I still see Novak and Rafa getting the first two. Actually, I think I don't see a name besides Novak and Rafa winning major this year until the U.S. Open. Your
Yeah.
thoughts? In the I know that's duh, but like, wow, I'm not going out on a limb.
No,
You
I
know,
know. To be honest, okay, the way I see Novak, I see him so superior from the rest that it's frightening. I mean,
scary.
it's scary. It's scary. Uh, to be honest, I have this feeling with Rafa that he really is coming to an end. I don't know how soon that will be, but the thing with him, like becoming a father, having other
Mm,
priorities, obviously about injuries and all this stuff, I don't really know. I will have to see them um, from the Australian Open all the way to the clay court events like the Masters 1000s to really see if he is one of. I mean, it's kind of crazy because what you see from Rafa and then you say now he's not in good shape or he won't have the same chances and then he goes all the way and wins
I
the French
know.
Open with a
I
losing the
know.
single set. So it's kind of crazy with him. But yeah, in terms of after French Open, I will say that only Alcaraz, if he comes back
Yeah.
healthy enough,
Yep.
that's a big if. If he comes back healthy enough and with a level close to what we saw from him the last year, that's basically the only guy that could
I know.
face again
I know.
against Djokovic.
Yeah, I know. It's the biggest buzzkill ever because I mean, not going out on a limb. The odds, I don't know. I don't look at the odds, but Djokovic win Australia. Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Rafa, I don't know how you beat Rafa. I don't know how you win 3 sets against Rafa, especially in Chatrier. I don't know how you do
yeah,
it unless you're Djokovic, and because Alcaraz is compromised. So then you got that, and then hopefully Berrettini can be healthy and threaten, or
yeah,
Shapo, or Felix. But I don't know. I still give that to Djokovic, and then the U.S. Open, as we've found out the last few years, that's when we can be like, cool, got a new dude again. I just see it as sort of a replay of last year, except for the
yeah,
beauty of Novak getting to play in Australia.
yeah.
Um, any closing thoughts? Because I hate to say this, I love this. This is amazing, but I got about 10%, not personally, but my phone.
Okay.
But
No, no,
any
really.
last thoughts? I mean, this has been wonderful picking your brain.
I will say that it's a really exciting moment for U.S. tennis, like especially for the things that we already discussed. This generation, this really young generation in women's tennis, and this also young generation in men's tennis that they're still trying to find a way to be consistent and to be there in the biggest stages of the season. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be like in the old days where
Mhm.
you always saw a U.S. player at least top three, right, or top five. I
Well,
don't.
we've kind of gotten used to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. We'll
But
have
the,
to be used.
but we
We'll
have to be
we'll have
patient.
to
Is your point? We have to be
exactly.
patient.
Yeah, let's
But
be patient and
realistically, I mean, realistically, Rodrigo, once Nadal, Djokovic retire, team's not a young man, but he still be around for a while. It's not it's not inconceivable to see three U.S. players in the top 10.
no, no, no. That could easily be Fritz. That could easily be Corda, and that could easily be Francis. I
Yeah,
mean, and I wouldn't be surprised to be honest.
yeah, so that's encouraging. One last thing I want to squeeze um, in a weird way. uh, I hate to say something like this, with Carlos getting injured, um, he's going to be in Acapulco. By then, he's got to be healthy. And
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah, right. That's the hope here in Mexico, because sadly Nadal won't be playing the event, but
No,
they did get Alcaraz to commit, which is perfect. And I think missing the Australian Open, he's not going to want to miss Acapulco.
Well, the tricky thing with Alcaraz and Acapulco, he was committed last year to play Acapulco too. But let's not forget that like, to be honest, I don't really know what they do this. I don't really know. Maybe because they're young and they don't care. Like, not in terms that
Yeah.
maybe they don't care, but Alcaraz is also committed to Rio the week before Acapulco and is in obviously in another country, in another surface. That's what happened last year. He was playing the final against, I can't remember who. I think I honestly can't remember, but he was playing the final while the join Acapulco. It was I think kind of it was so weird because then in Rio started to rain, and then the final had to be played. I think it was Monday or something like that. It was so crazy, and Alcaraz is committed to play in Rio. So I feel like that he will have to choose between Rio and Acapulco because I think it's going to be really complicated for him to do both.
For the sake of clarity, is Rio a hard court event?
No, Rio is on clay.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Yeah,
Yeah,
I figured
that's
it
the
was.
thing.
Yeah, but is it I think it's a 500 also, which is kind of
Yeah,
weird.
it is. It is a 500. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got that's the goofy thing about the tennis schedule. You've got a 500 on clay the week before a 500 on hard court in
Exactly.
the so-called, I mean, that's technically South America. I see Mexico as North America. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, no.
Okay, I've always considered Mexico North America. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is that. Well, that's why I also think it'd be great, and this is a whole nother podcast for. We've talked about this privately for the Rio event to switch with Cabo, but we can't even get into
It's
that.
true. Yes.
We can't even open that. That is such a look. Hey,
We'll
you know
see.
what, Rodrigo? Would you be able to come back sometime and talk about that possibility?
Yeah, of course. Whenever you
I would
want, if
love
I
it.
have the time, I'll be glad. I'll be glad to be back.
I'm delighted that you're back. So that'll be a teaser, folks. And we also, I imagine you plan on uh, going to Acapulco to cover the event, or is that still too far out?
No, yes, that's the plan. That's
Outstanding.
the plan
Well, how
so
about
far.
this?
Yeah.
I'll see you in Acapulco. I'll be there, my man. But
Okay.
I would love for us to chat maybe a week or two before the event. Is that
Okay.
possible?
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, I'm going to leave it at this. Thank you again. And is it correct to say Feliz Año Nuevo, amigo?
Feliz Año Nuevo. Yes, Feliz Año Nuevo. That's the way we say it.
All right, brother. Same to you, hermano. Es un placer, como siempre. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once again to the Wild West Tennis Podcast. This guy's got to go, but I have to say before he does, thank you again, Rodrigo Camacho, sports journalist who does work for a Fox affiliate. And you can find this podcast on Spotify. You can like it, subscribe to it on YouTube, and well, I guess you know the rest. Adios. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Bye.